Have you ever felt trapped, like you were stuck in a situation with no way out, praying for a miracle? Imagine being an entire nation of people, enslaved for 400 years, their every day filled with hardship and forced labor. This was the reality for the Israelites in ancient Egypt. Their cries reached the heavens, and an answer was coming, but it would arrive in a way no one could have ever predicted. Our story begins not in the halls of power, but in a basket floating down the Nile River. Inside is a baby, Moses, an Israelite child hidden away to escape a death sentence declared by the Pharaoh. But destiny has a way of finding you. One day, he witnesses an Egyptian taskmaster brutally beating an Israelite slave. In a flash of rage, Moses intervenes, and the Egyptian is killed. Years pass. Moses is now a husband, a father, living a quiet life far from the troubles of his past. He thinks his old life is behind him. But one day, while tending his flock on Mount Horeb, he sees something extraordinary, a bush, engulfed in flames, yet not burning up. As he approaches, a voice calls out to him from the fire. It is the voice of God, the God of his ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God tells Moses that he has seen the suffering of his people in Egypt and has heard their cries. And he has chosen Moses to be their deliverer. Moses is stunned, filled with doubt. Who am I to go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? He asks. He's a fugitive, a shepherd, a man with a stammer. He gives every excuse he can think of, but God reassures him, I will be with you. He gives Moses miraculous signs to prove his divine authority and tells him to bring his brother, Aaron, to be his spokesman. Reluctantly, armed with nothing but a shepherd's staff and a promise, Moses agrees. He returns to the land he once fled, ready to confront the most powerful man on earth. Imagine the scene. To humble Israelite brothers, Moses and Aaron, walking into the opulent court of the mighty Pharaoh. The air is thick with tension. They deliver their message, a demand from the God of the Hebrews, let my people go. Pharaoh, who considers himself a god, scoffs at the request. Who is the Lord, that I should obey him and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and I will not let Israel go. Not only does he refuse, but he punishes the Israelites for their audacity, increasing their workload, forcing them to make bricks without straw. The people's suffering intensifies, and they turn on Moses, blaming him for making their situation even worse. This is where the contest of wills truly begins. God tells Moses, now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh, and so begins the 10 plagues, a series of divine judgments sent to break Pharaoh's stubborn will and demonstrate God's power over all the gods of Egypt. First, Aaron strikes the Nile with his staff, and the river, the lifeblood of Egypt, turns to blood. The fish die. The water is undrinkable. Yet, Pharaoh's heart remains hard. Next comes a plague of frogs. They swarm out of the river, covering the land, hopping into houses, bedrooms, even ovens. Pharaoh begs Moses to pray for their removal, promising to let the people go. But as soon as the frogs vanish, he goes back on his word. This pattern repeats itself, a plague of gnats, then swarms of flies that torment the Egyptians, but spare the Israelites in their land of Goshen. A terrible pestilence strikes Egypt's livestock, yet not one Israelite animal is harmed. Then boils break out on the skin of the Egyptians. Each plague is more severe than the last, a targeted assault on an aspect of Egyptian life and their deities. But with each one, the scripture says, Pharaoh hardened his heart. The 7th plague arrives with terrifying force, the worst hailstorm Egypt has ever seen, a storm of fire and ice that destroys crops and shatters everything in its path, except in Goshen, where the Israelites live. Pharaoh seems to relent, admitting his sin. But once the storm subsides, his pride returns. Then comes a plague of locusts, a crawling, devouring carpet that eats whatever the hail had left, turning Egypt's green fields into a barren wasteland. Following the locusts, a supernatural darkness descends upon Egypt for 3 days, a thick, palpable darkness that could be felt. Light, however, remained in the homes of the Israelites. Pharaoh is furious, desperate, but his pride will not let him yield completely. He offers compromises, but Moses stands firm. Not a hoof shall be left behind. Finally, God announces the 10th and final plague, the most devastating of all. At midnight, the angel of death will pass through Egypt, and the firstborn son in every Egyptian household, from the firstborn of Pharaoh himself to the firstborn of the lowest servant, and even the firstborn of the livestock, will die. But the Israelites are given specific instructions for their protection. Each family is to take a perfect lamb, sacrifice it, and paint its blood on the doorposts of their homes. When the angel of death sees the blood, he will pass over that house. That night, a great cry echoes throughout Egypt, a cry of grief and anguish from every home that did not have the blood on its door. Pharaoh's own son lies dead, broken and defeated. Pharaoh summons Moses and Aaron in the middle of the night. "Go," he commands, "lead my people, take your flocks and herds, and go, and ... Bless me also." The Egyptians, desperate to be rid of the Israelites, urge them to leave quickly, showering them with gold, silver, and clothing. After 430 years, the long night of slavery is over. A nation of over 600,000 men, plus women and children, begin their march to freedom, leaving Egypt behind. But their journey is far from over. Their path leads them to the edge of the Pi-Hahiroth, with the vast Red Sea before them and the desert wilderness hemming them in on either side. Just as they begin to think they are safe, a scout returns with terrifying news. Back in Egypt, Pharaoh's grief has turned to rage. "What have we done?" He roars, regretting the loss of his entire slave labor force. The Israelites see the dust cloud on the horizon, the glint of sun on bronze helmets and chariot wheels. Panic rips through the crowd. They are trapped. The sea is in front of them. The most powerful army in the world is behind them. They cry out to Moses, their fear turning to anger. "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness." In this moment of ultimate crisis, with his people on the verge of rebellion, Moses stands as a beacon of unwavering faith. He raises his voice above the clamor of fear and says, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." Then, God gives a simple command to Moses: "Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water so that the Israelites can go through the sea on dry ground." As Moses raises his staff, a powerful east wind begins to blow. All night it howls, pushing the waters of the Red Sea back. The waters pile up like liquid walls on their right and on their left, and a path of dry land appears through the very heart of the sea. It's a miracle beyond comprehension. The Israelites, their fear turning to awe, begin to walk through the sea, a corridor of water towering over them. The Egyptian army, blinded by their pursuit, does not hesitate. The Egyptian army, blinded by their pursuit, does not hesitate. They charge down the same path, their chariots rumbling onto the dry seabed, confident of their victory. But their chariot wheels get stuck in the mud, their advance grinds to a halt. They are in chaos, in the very trap God has set for them. Once every last Israelite has reached the other side, God tells Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea so that the waters may flow back over the Egyptians and their chariots and horsemen." Moses obeys. He stretches his hand out over the sea, and as the dawn breaks, the walls of water collapse. The Red Sea surges back to its normal course with cataclysmic force, crashing down upon the entire Egyptian army. The chariots, the horsemen, the soldiers all are swallowed by the churning waves. Not one of them survived. As the sun rises, the Israelites stand on the far shore, looking back at the sea. The bodies of their former masters wash up on the sand. They are truly free. The threat is gone. Their enemy is vanquished. Overwhelmed with gratitude and awe, they sing a song of praise to the Lord, a song of victory and deliverance. Their long and arduous journey to the Promised Land has just begun, but they take their first steps as a free nation, forever changed by the God who parted the sea for them. This incredible story isn't just an ancient tale. It's a powerful reminder that even when we feel trapped by impossible circumstances, with a sea of troubles before us and an army of fears behind us, there is hope. It's a story that challenges us to have faith, to stand firm, and to trust that a way will be made where there seems to be no way. Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more epic stories, and share what this story means to you in the comments below. See you next time.